What if we could take a classic nostalgic recipe and make it simpler, quicker, and just a little bit healthier? If you're like me, you grew up eating those frozen Marie Callender's chicken pot pies a lot, actually. So chicken pot pie just reminds me of childhood. But store-bought chicken pot pies have super long ingredient lists and they're pretty pricey for what you're actually getting. And traditional homemade recipes can be complicated. If you're intimidated to tackle a homemade crust in the entire recipe on a weeknight, then this recipe is for you. Today we're making a foolproof chicken pot pie skillet with all the same warm, home-cooked flavors of a traditional chicken pot pie, complete with an almond flour biscuit topping to make things easy. And even better, it's gluten and dairy-free. Let's make my favorite comfort food, chicken pot pie. Here's everything you need. For the almond flour biscuits, you'll need blanched almond flour, baking powder, dried thyme, kosher salt, ground black pepper, garlic powder, dried rosemary, unsalted vegan butter or unsalted regular butter, and eggs. For the pot pie skillet, you'll need olive oil, a yellow onion, carrots, celery, Yukon Gold potatoes, white mushrooms, garlic, tapioca flour, kosher salt, dried rosemary, ground sage, dried thyme, ground black pepper, low sodium chicken broth, canned full fat coconut milk, shredded rotisserie chicken, and green peas. Okay, let's make dinner. So we're starting with our biscuit dough because it needs some time to chill in the fridge while we prep all of our other ingredients. So dough's going first, even before veggie prep this time. And the base of our dough is almond flour. It's actually pretty similar to the base of my breakfast biscuits. There's no ground meat or anything in there, so not exactly the same. But blanched almond flour, 1.5 cups is the first ingredient. And then we're gonna do a teaspoon of baking powder. This is just gonna help it rise a little bit. And then I've got a spice mix of garlic powder, salt, thyme, rosemary, and black pepper in here. And I'm just gonna give it a good whisk. If you wanna use a different flour other than almond flour, I feel like that's probably one of my most commonly asked questions. You can. I've only tested this particular recipe with blanched almond flour, and I think it gives a really nice taste. It keeps the recipe grain-free as well, if that's something that you're paying attention to or care about. But I really think an all-purpose flour would work just fine. So if you try it, definitely let me know in the comments. Now that we've gotten our dry ingredients fully mixed and incorporated here, we also are gonna use about 6 tablespoons of butter. Now, this recipe is dairy-free as well as gluten-free, so to keep it dairy-free, use whatever dairy-free butter you like. So we're gonna melt this butter, and then we're gonna add it in as well as our eggs. Those are the 2 liquid sources in here. So I'm just gonna cut off 6 tablespoons and transfer it to a glass jar so that we can get this melted in the microwave. So I use melted butter in this biscuit dough. If you think of a traditional biscuit dough, I used to love making biscuits. You use cold butter where you grate it or cut it into small cubes. I use melted here because it's not as fluffy of a dough. It's kind of flat and covers our chicken pot pie skillet. So we've got our 6 tablespoons of melted butter, dairy-free, vegan butter, regular butter, whatever you want. And then we're gonna create a little well in the center of our dry ingredients. And this is just so we can whisk our eggs and make it easier. So I'm just gonna crack in 3 eggs. If you can, room temperature eggs are ideal here. So 3 full eggs going in, and I'm gonna whisk it in this little well as much as I can. Doesn't need to be perfect. And then once there are no streaks left, you can kind of just continue mixing. And when you've mixed it as much as you could, it's gonna be pretty dry and clumpy. Then we're gonna add in our melted butter. I'm just gonna kind of stream this in and mix. If your butter is super hot after you've melted it, just give it a second, because if it's like boiling hot butter going into the biscuit dough, you don't really want the eggs to cook before we put it into the oven. So I kind of use like some sort of combo of a whisk and a spatula during this phase because we're whisking the eggs and then we're moving on to the other ingredients. So this is where I transition it. Okay, so I'm just gonna give it another good mix, make sure it's fully incorporated. And it's pretty warm right now because we have that melted butter. So once this is completely combined, we're gonna transfer this to the fridge, but just a couple of options if you don't actually wanna make this dough from scratch. It's really quick, so I highly recommend doing it. But if you wanted to get those pre-made biscuits that you can get at the grocery store, they make gluten-free ones too, I believe. But if you're not gluten-free, just the carton or can, I don't know what that's called, cylinder of biscuits, then you could add that on top and the cook time will be just about the same. So that'll work too. This is what you want the texture and the color to look like. You can see that the herbs are evenly spread throughout, so it actually looks very beautiful, but it's light, it's fluffy. It's not really what you would think of a typical biscuit dough that's very thick, but this is what you want. We're gonna let it chill in the fridge. I would say a minimum of 20 minutes just so the butter can harden a little bit, and then it helps for evenly spreading everything out onto the skillet. And you could even do this ahead of time. If you want to do it up to 6 hours in advance, you should be totally fine. Okay, easy enough. This is gonna go chill in the fridge, and then we're gonna get into our veggie prep. This recipe does require a decent amount of veggie chopping, but it is worth it because we're getting these classic veggies that you expect in a chicken pot pie. And you're also getting a meal that's packed with veggies and plants and fiber and all that good stuff. So we're gonna start by dicing an onion, and I'm just using a small onion. There's a lot of veggies going in here, so you gotta make sure we're not overflowing our skillet. If you wanted to take some shortcuts, you could also go for pre-diced. You can get your mix of onion, carrot, celery, but just to save some money, we're gonna dice it ourselves. I'm gonna do a pretty small dice because there's so many things going on to the skillet. We want it to cook as quickly as possible, reduce our cook time. So I'm just doing a few cuts down the middle and then doing a very small dice. A shallot would work here too instead of an onion, but just feel like a yellow onion is classic for a pot pie. Carrots next. We're gonna give these a quick peel and then small dice. Usually I have a lot of veggie swap suggestions for recipes. This one, because it is a classic, there's just not as many swaps that I feel like I personally would do. Small dice on these is gonna be about 1/4 inch. Carrots can take a long time to cook, so you wanna make sure these pieces get small. All right, celery next. We're doing 3 ribs. And same thing, you wanna give this a pretty good dice. Cut off the big pieces on the end and the stems. And then going for that 1/4 inch dice again. Evenly sized chopped veggies yield the best even cook. So that's what we're doing here. And a good sharp chef's knife is honestly key. If you're gonna get one knife, get a good chef's knife, get it sharpened as much as you can. It'll make your life so much easier. It's gonna make your prep time so much quicker. Okay, Yukon Gold potatoes. I recommend 2 medium potatoes. These ones are honestly a little bigger. I might not use the entire thing because, again, we wanna fit everything in. The small chop on these are very important because potatoes take quite a bit of time to cook. We're just gonna give these a quick peel, do the same kind of small dice. You could use russet potatoes if you wanted to. Basically any kind of just like neutral potato like this. I like Yukon Gold, but if you find even like baby potatoes and you wanna cut them into small pieces, you do that. Whatever is on hand or that you can find at the store. And now our mushrooms. These are white mushrooms. We're gonna give them a small dice. And I just think they go in chicken pot pie really nicely. I think it adds, another veggie, more fiber, but just that nice little texture and earthy flavor. Nice small chop. Doesn't need to be perfect. Just want those little pieces. This recipe is very similar also to my chicken pot pie soup. So if you're wanting more of the chicken pot pie flavors, that's another one to try out. It doesn't have the biscuits. It's obviously more liquidy, soupy, but really delicious. And that's also my cookbook. And then our last veggie to quickly chop is 4 cloves of garlic. If you want some more, I think I did more like 5 or 6, if you like it garlicky. If you wanted to take a shortcut here, you could do pre-minced garlic. I like to do it myself. I don't think it adds too much extra time. It definitely saves money. I think it just tastes way better. And look at all the different veggies that we have for this recipe. We've got carrot, potato, celery. We're gonna do peas, even though we didn't have to chop those up. Onion, garlic, and mushrooms. Tons of veg, great for gut health. Okay, so now we're ready to get to the stove. First thing, you wanna preheat your oven to 350. So I'm just gonna do that. And then we're gonna heat our skillet at medium heat. This is an 11-inch skillet. I would recommend an 11 or 12 if you have it inch skillet. Anything smaller, you're gonna see there's a lot of things going in here. If you have even like a 10 or 8-inch, definitely is not gonna fit. So you want something big. It's gonna be a very, very full skillet. So we're just gonna heat up the cast iron. You could also use stainless steel, anything that's oven proof. until it's nice and hot. We're gonna add our oil and then we're gonna saute our veggies. All right, so we're starting with 2 tablespoons of oil. Just let that get hot. Okay, we've got our classic trinity: onion, celery, and our carrots. Give it a good stir, and we're gonna let this cook for 7 to 9 minutes, just until the onions are pretty much translucent, the veggies have overall softened, and then we're gonna continue adding veggies. So give it a stir every minute or 2. All right, that was about 8 minutes. And now we're adding in more of our veggies. We're gonna do our potatoes, our mushrooms, and our garlic. Because we have so many veggies in here, I'm not as worried about the garlic burning, but you still wanna continuously stir every couple of minutes. We're gonna do another 5 or so minutes here. Now that everything is starting to be softened here, the potatoes are not quite fork tender, but they're soon gonna be fork tender, and that's kind of what you're looking for because it is gonna spend some time in the oven. If you have a little bit bigger pieces of potato, just make sure you've gotten them at least a little bit soft. But now that we're here, it smells so amazing. We're gonna add in our spice mixture. This includes sage, rosemary, thyme, ground black pepper, and salt. It's gonna get fragrant really quickly. And then we're also gonna add in tapioca flour. Now this is to add a thickness to what ultimately will be the sauce in here. And tapioca flour is just a favorite, most used ingredient of mine. But you can use arrowroot starch instead. You can use cornstarch instead. For this recipe, you could also use all-purpose flour if you're not gluten-free. You can't always do that 1-to-1 sub, but for this recipe you could. And this is really just to get everything thickened. So you're gonna start to see it's a little harder to stir. So you just gotta work through that. And it's getting kind of stuck to your veggies. That's normal. So if you see that, don't be stressed out. It starts to look not super pretty, but we're gonna get through that and then it's gonna look really pretty. So just stir constantly until it's nice and fragrant and then no dry flour remains. Even if it's getting a little stuck to your spoon like mine, that's all right. Just pry that off and we're gonna deglaze with our broth in a minute. So now that I can see that there's no dry starch left in the mixture, we're gonna add in our broth and our coconut milk. This is the liquid of the dish. So pour that right in. Gets quieter too. The overstimulation goes down. And then coconut milk. If you are not dairy-free and you're looking for something else, you could do light cream. There's a lentil-based cream that you can sometimes find that's similar to coconut milk, but it is very creamy. You want a thick milk, so I would not go any lighter than whole milk. Try to use up what you have, but you guys know I love coconut milk. I use it so much. Keeps this dish really creamy, but still dairy-free. Okay, so keep stirring and get those little stuck bits off the bottom of the pan as you stir. And you'll notice that the coconut milk broth mixture is gonna start to thicken. That's the tapioca flour doing its work. So when you see that it's bubbling a little bit like this and the sauce has thickened, then it's time to stir in our green peas and our rotisserie chicken. We've got 3 cups of rotisserie chicken, which is typically what I get out of 1 bird. We did a whole video on rotisserie chicken, ways to use it, very recently, so I'll link that in the description, but here's another one. This is why I emphasize that the pan needs to be big enough, because now it's getting very crowded. That's all right. If a little bit is kind of spilling over the top, it's totally fine. So keep on mixing that in, and it's almost time to go in the oven. Now, if you don't have a skillet big enough, especially one that's oven proof, you could also use a Dutch oven. You could do this whole thing in a Dutch oven or a pot that's oven safe. Now that everything is evenly combined, we just want to flatten the top as much as possible. It smells like fall, like Thanksgiving, that sage, thyme, so fragrant and delish. And this also makes a ton. This recipe, I would say, makes at least 6 servings. So it's perfect for a dinner party, you're having family over, honestly, even Thanksgiving. Okay, so now we're gonna turn off the heat. This is where we want it to be, and now it's time to add our biscuit dough on top. Okay, so now the fun part, we've got our dough. It's been chilling in the refrigerator, so it's a little harder and easier to scoop, which is great. And we're just gonna scoop it directly on top of the skillet. So I'm using like a medium size, I believe this is a 2 tablespoon cookie scoop. If you don't have a cookie scoop, just kind of eyeball it and use a spoon. But I'm gonna do between 6 and 8 little dough balls, and then I'm gonna flatten them out a little bit too. So this doesn't have to be perfect. You just wanna evenly distribute this dough across the entire skillet. Okay, so I did 7 or 8 scoops, and I'm just gonna spray a little bit of oil on my spatula. You don't have to do this, but this will make it easier to press down without the dough getting stuck. And you can press it in pretty good. We want them to be flattened and kind of covering the skillet. It's not gonna cover the entire thing, but it'll cover a good amount. And this is really what separates this from your typical chicken pot pie, but it also is the thing that makes it easier to put together. You don't need to make a pie crust, bake it. You just put it right on top. So you can actually use this dough and make biscuits. Just put them on a sheet pan. I'd bake them for 10 to 12 minutes and you should be good. Like I said, it's just like the dough for my breakfast biscuits that you guys love so much. Okay, so I got them flattened out pretty nicely. I'm just gonna do a little sprinkle of flaky salt. This is optional, but anytime I can pull out my tub of flaky Maldon salt, I'm gonna do it. And it just makes it look a little bit prettier when it comes out of the oven. All right, so that's it. 1 pan, super easy. This is gonna go in the oven just until the tops of the dough are lightly browned and we've given all the veggies a chance to soften a little bit more. It's ready. My whole kitchen, my whole apartment smells amazing. The biscuits are nice and like a little bit browned on top. That's how you know it's done. And the insides are just like bubbly and soft and brown and delicious, and I'm just so excited to eat this. Okay, can't wait to dig in. Let's plate it up. Okay, I've been dying to eat this for the entire time that we've been filming it. So let's do a taste test. It smells so good. It just smells like fall. I've been so ready for these kinds of recipes. I gotta get the biscuit in there too. It's really good. You guys have to try this recipe. I love that it's all in 1 pan, and I know there was a couple of different components, but honestly, the thing that takes the most time is just letting your veggies saute. We're using rotisserie chicken to make it easy. The biscuit mix takes maybe 10 minutes to put together, and in the end, you have this delicious, veggie-packed, protein-packed, really yummy dinner that you're actually gonna crave, and it makes a ton. This is definitely gonna be one of my new favorites, and if you guys are looking for more recipes like this, more easy, nourishing weeknight dinners, don't forget to pre-order my cookbook, Don't Think About Dinner. I'm so excited. We're getting closer to the book coming out, and pre-ordering is truly the best way to support me, to support the book, to signal to retailers that people are interested in the book. If you pre-order now on Amazon, you won't be charged for the book until it ships, but you'll just secure your copy and get their price savings guarantee. So thank you to everybody who has already pre-ordered. I appreciate the support so much. Okay, I can't wait to go finish this. I will see you guys next time. Thank you so much. So are we cutting?
No.
Oh.
Sorry, I thought you meant the veggies.
In case you missed it, my debut cookbook, Don't Think About Dinner, is finally available for pre-order. It'll be out in January of this year, and you can go secure your copy now. Don't Think About Dinner is going to teach you how to save time and money with over 125 easy, nourishing, and delicious recipes for every meal of the day. I cannot wait for you to see everything inside. There are 12 weeks of brand new meal plans and so much more. So go pre-order. The link is in the description.